did take in 2020. And there was a little bit of a pre-pandemic road trip from Queens to Arizona in February that should keep everybody interested for today. So let's get started. As Bob mentioned before from the meeting description, we're going to cover some New York City stuff, the road trip that I mentioned where we drove from New York to Arizona, hitting things along the way. And I spent the last couple of weeks scanning some old slides. You can see a 3rd Avenue Railway shot at Columbus Circle on the screen here, and some recent trips as well to Toronto, Boston, and Philly. So let's get started. As Bob mentioned as well, the part 2 will be on the January 22nd. He'll share the link in the text thread below. This is more of the traction show, though there are quite a few diesel shots in here as well. The January 22nd show will be mostly diesel, freight, and passenger railroading, as well as some nice scans from the 50s and 60s. So let's get started. So those of you who know me well, I usually do a slide presentation. That's what I've done for probably 30 years at ERA. This is my first full digital presentation, but this was an appropriate starting shot. Every now and then you see an interesting film title somewhere. This was on a camera store in Manhattan. I don't know if it's making a comeback, but as long as it's still there, I'll be happy. So let's start off with a short road trip in 2019. Around this time of year, we learned that the CLRVs in Toronto were going to be retired. So a good friend of mine, Ray Mercado, and we jumped on Amtrak, the Maple Leaf, rode up to Albany Rensselaer, which you can see here, switched to a diesel from the 3rd rail-equipped diesel before to head up the rest of the way. We eventually made it to Toronto after 500-something miles and 12 hours. And here we are in Toronto Union Station, which is a beautiful place. This is the Great Hall, opened in 1927, rebuilt in the 70s. Used by Via Rail, Go Transit, Union Pearson Airport Service, and the once a day Amtrak when we're not in a pandemic. The Maple Leaf is currently not running. Just happened to luck out. Our hotel room in the Intercontinental had a bird's eye view of Union Station. Had some pretty good luck the last 2 years staying in hotels with great views without even asking first. This was the living room view from our room. So we got up there late. The train gets in about 7 o'clock. We checked in, obviously had to go out for dinner. Took a few pictures while we were out. Basically the CN Tower, one of Toronto's most famous landmarks, 1,815 feet high communications and observation tower that opened in 1976. You can see it from many different angles in Toronto. This is what we came to see, the end of the CLRVs. This is in front of the Royal Alexandria Theatre on King Street in Toronto. We were in our last couple days of service. They were operating on a few lines. TTC actually published everything so all the fans could know where they could be found. Toronto ran many of these, 196 actually. The first 6 were made in Switzerland. The rest were made by UTDC in Canada. They ran from September 30th, 1979 through the end of December of 2019. This is what they were replaced by, as well as the other articulated ALRVs. These Bombardier Flexities, there's 200 and change of these running now in Toronto. They're all over the place. Photograph well, look a little strange, ride well. A lot of problems with them going into service. So we wake up the next day. This is the Toronto sign, the famous Toronto sign at Nathan's Phillips Square, adjacent to City Hall. This is the last full day of operation of the CLRV. They ran on the 511 Bathurst, from Bathurst Station down to Exhibition Loop. They were in regular service. Many fans came out to see this. This was very early as the sun was just starting to come up. You can tell a lot of rust spots, a lot of wear on these cars. They knew they were going to be going. A couple of shots inside the car. Actually, when I walked in, Railfan was laying on the floor taking a macro shot of the rubber. So I guess every detail has been captured for posterity. Here's a view of a car in service. About half the people on the car were fans. We rode to the other end of the line as the sun was coming up or coming out. This is Exhibition Loop. Combo shot of the old and the new. Leaving Exhibition Loop, basically Ray and I walked most of the line back, trying to get pictures in as many places as possible. Toronto's a very photogenic city. There's the CN Tower there. A lot of those buildings are pretty new, built on the site of former CN rail yards. This is along Fleet Street in front of Fort York Academy and the Queen's York Rangers Museum on the right. Again, we're on the 511 Bathurst. This is one of the more famous shots in Toronto, passing the famous Queen's Wharf Lighthouse along Fleet Street. That's a turn-back loop there for service cars. Lots of things like this on the line. People wanted to make sure the cars were saved. Doing a little research today, Toronto saved 2, and there's a couple of work cars as well. An ALRV was saved. Cars also went to Halton County, IRM, Seashore, and American Industrial Mining in Ohio. And a private individual bought some as well. So the cars will be around. 4069 turning from Bathurst onto Fleet Street. One of the other signature shots in Toronto is the famous Bathurst Street Bridge. Most people come here to photograph the trains below, but you can get some nice shots of the Toronto streetcars as well. There's a Flexity on the 511. Looking down from that area, that's the famous junction. That's a Union Pearson Airport Express train, DMU. There are 18 of these Nippon Sharyus in service. You also have GO Transit here, VIA, and the Amtrak when it does run, non-pandemic times. Great place to take morning pictures. Unfortunately, as a lot of these buildings come up, a lot of shade is thrown on the track. So photography here in the early morning is becoming more complicated, but you still can get some good photos. Continuing up Bathurst Street, here's the King Car crossing. They do have some wraps, some interesting pictures can be taken. Here's a southbound CLRV. And here's a pretty good shot with the old and the new, Bathurst and Queen. And a few pictures at night. This is Exhibition Loop. Another shot at the X. There's the daytime combo shot you saw before at night. Again, that's a Bombardier Flexity. The fleet starts at 4,400 and goes up to 4,603. And this is the northern end of the line at the Bathurst Station.
Andrew, there was a question from Carl Jackson. Do the CLRVs have a self-leveling suspension? I don't even know.
That I do not know.
Okay.
I do not know.
Okay.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Take a selfie with the CLRV. The ladies are doing that in the front and the police officers doing that in the back. So this is the final last day. This is December 29th, 2019. TTC set up a service between something like 10 in the morning to 2 p.m. running along Queen Street between Wolsey Loop, which is seen here, and the Russell Car House on the eastern end of Toronto. They used several cars. This particular one is painted up it's actually called the Streetcar Named Toronto, painted up to show art in transit. This car has been preserved at the Halton County Museum, so you can see it there. Kind of nice and bright. This was a miserable day for pictures, so I'll just show a few highlight shots. Usually I try to go for a couple of days to make sure I get some sun, which fortunately we had the day before. But again, this is the actual last day. This is the historical moment. You can see they're giving out paper models of the cars. You can see somebody holding one there as a rain shield. Some nice graphics were installed to commemorate the day. A line car on the 511. Another view of this interesting color. Seats were altered inside as well. Here we are at the eastern end of the line by Russell Car House. Lots of press on the cars. These were very crowded with fans and locals. This is 4001, one of the original 6 built in Switzerland. This one was preserved by the TTC. They cleaned it up nicely before the event, and it is probably available for charter now. This is toward the end of the day, going over the Don River Bridge, one of the last trips. (4178), heading out to Russell, one of the last trips. And this is the actual last trip. This was really dark. Thank God for digital photography. This would be tough with slides. Here's the car when it got to Russell Car House. All the TTC people that ran the cars came out for a photo with various other TTC employees. Few shots from the last few moments at Russell Car House. All these have been scrapped or sold, except for the 2. Here are the operators signing their transfers and final ride signs to commemorate the day. They do have 2 Heritage PCC cars that can be chartered as well. I believe this is the only one that's running at the moment. I think they're working on the second one. But again, this is in Russell. Couple of detail views, the builder's plate. One last view inside. This is after the events. Russell Car House is in the Leslieville neighborhood. Last view. And then, of course, you have to eat. This is a trolley inside of the old spaghetti warehouse in Toronto. Some quick Google searches didn't provide me much information, but I'll look again later. Food was very good, highly recommended. Some colorful views around Toronto. And we'll pretend we just rode via to Montreal. This other news in Canada is the de Montagne line is about to shut down for good. Trains do not run here anymore anyway. This is Central Station in downtown Montreal. Trains ran here up to a certain point in the summer. I believe it was actually May of 2020. The line was cut back, and basically this part is currently out of service for construction of the new REM light rail metro network. For years, you could take photos and hear of these Bombardier built MUs or the older classic equipment, the box cabs that many of you have seen pictures of for years. But again, currently you can no longer ride through Mount Royal Tunnel to Central Station. The REM will be a driverless light rail metro that will replace this, add extensions to the south shore of Montreal, the airport, and along the former CN Dorney spur. The first section between Broussard and the South Shore, Broussard in the South Shore and here is supposed to open in 2022. So stay tuned for that. Unfortunately, these cars are not that old. They're built 1994, 95, again from Bombardier. They're sort of rendered useless at the moment because they will not need these cars to provide any other service. Couple of views from the de Montagne line. It'll be grass. Went up here last winter to get a few pictures since we knew that this end was coming. Nothing like the snowstorm in Montreal.
Andrew, do we know if any of the box cab cars were saved? I mean, you might or might not.
Yeah, there's one that actually just got repainted cosmetically and is on display in de Montagne. There's one, as far as I remember, is still in Warehouse Point. I don't know if that is still there, but it was there a couple of years ago. That's it as far as I know.
Right, and then there was another question. Is it possible to rebuild the De Montagne trains to 1524 millimeter gauge, but aren't they changing to a totally new technology, I think?
Yeah, they will no longer run here. I mean, could they be used somewhere else that gets electrified or sold to, you know, let's say New Jersey Transit or something, who knows? But they will not run on this line again. So here we are. This is the Bois-Franc station. This is formerly Val Royale. I took this again last winter. If I go back 20 years, same spot. That's one of the English electrics, and the old station, which is not there. And one last view in Montreal. This is the St. Dorothy station in Laval. If you are watching this in Canada, you still have a few days to take pictures, but this will be coming to an end soon. And when you go to Montreal, everybody takes a quick look at the metro. This is the Berry-UQAM station and one of the MR-73 cars built in the late 70s by Bombardier. Sister cars, the MR-63s from Canadian Vickers, were retired in 2018. This is rubber tired electric. It's loud, but it's kind of nice. It's different. So I like to do these shows kind of like a travel thing. I mean, we're coming down from Montreal, so here we are headed back towards New York. These are two of CP's veterans' engines, actually military engines, I should say, passing the former D&H station at Fort Edward, which was actually built in 1900. Better view of the equipment coming into Saratoga Springs here. 7023 is painted to resemble an Air Force from Canada and the US. And the second one, 7022, is painted for the Canadian and American warships with a red hull. So something interesting on CN freights here and there. While we're in Albany, this was a couple months earlier, that 7023 passing the old D&H office, which is now part of the New York State, New York State University. This is in the middle of I-787 in Albany. You saying something, Bob?
Yeah, so yeah, I think that's right. It's part of SUNY Albany. There was another question from Andrew Ludasi. Is an ex-Montrealer, what are they doing with the Bombardier MUs? Do we even know, or are they just gonna?
I haven't heard anything.
I haven't heard anything either. Okay, thanks.
Sure. Same place a month later, not quite as nice weather. Canadian Pacific bought the Central Maine and Quebec earlier in the year. Here is one running north from Albany. And just one or two more shots on this. This is, where are we here? This is one of the other scenic locations on the line, crossing the Mohawk River between Cohoes and Waterford. And again, that's the Air Force military unit. And same place a month later, the sun came out. There's the CMQ doing the same thing. And the other military engine I've been able to see is 7020, which is painted in NATO green, representing Army in temperate climates. I think we can figure out where it is based on the sign too. So what electric can we see in Albany? We could start with the new Boston subway cars that are being delivered. They're coming in, they're actually built in China, or the shells are built in China by the CRRC Corporation for MBTA's Orange and Red Line. They're shipped by barge from China to Albany. They're trucked from here to a staging area in Castleton-on-Hudson. And then they're shipped to the CRRC facility in Springfield, Massachusetts for final assembly. This is the staging location in Castleton-on-Hudson. And what you see in the pictures are both Orange and Red Line cars. Just a couple of views. If you could see on your screen, the car on the left says orange is with a magic marker, and the car on the right says red. A little close up there, Boston Metro Train project. So let's take a look. Let's go to Boston and take a look. They're in the process of delivering 152 cars to the Orange Line. This is one here at North Station, and there'll be 252 cars to the Red Line.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the Orange Line today. I did make 3 or 4 trips up to Boston this summer, basically day trips to photograph everything while it's still the way I remembered most of my life. This is one of the, what do they call them, Type 12 Orange Line cars built by Hawker Siddeley, 1979 to 1981. There's 114 of these cars active. Get your shots now. They're not going to be around forever.
Oh, you got till 2022.
Well, that's not too far away, George. So this is Wellington coming into the station. Nice picture you could take here with some foliage or probably some snow now. This is from a parking garage looking at the Wellington facility. That's car 1400, the first one. Was just running around the yard testing while I was there in October. This is a place I've been trying to go for a while. It's been on my to-do list. This is basically a nice crossing of the Mystic River between Somerville and Medford, or in MBTA language, between the Assembly and Wellington stations. You can get some nice pictures from the Gateway Park. It's actually in a Target parking lot. You could get some nice views here of Orange Line trains and MBTA Haverhill commuter trains in the morning only when the sun is right. So here's a few shots from maybe an hour standing there. There's one of your MBTA trains with a HSP 46, not one of the most beautiful looking engines. A little closer. The few times I came up there this year, they seem to run 2 trains of the new cars, and they pull in around 10 o'clock in the morning and come back out again about 3 in the afternoon. So they seem to be like rush hour peak only for now. So I waited here to make sure I got them. And there's one right there. I haven't seen more than 2 sets in service at any given time. Nice.
They only have enough to run 3 trains anyway.
Okay, very good. There's an interesting combo there with the old and the new and a duck. And this was the last pull-in. Basically, I guess one of the colleges up there was doing some crewing training. So the park is nice. You can kind of walk around a little bit beyond this. This is a little further in. It's adjacent to this Amelia Earhart Dam. You can get some interesting shots here with the dam and the Orange Line. Few more feet in the other direction, you can get some MBTA shots on the Newbury Rockport line. That's one of the AMF rebuilt GP40 MCs. Get some distant shots of the Assembly Station. That's where that Orange Line train is stopping, next to Mass General Brigham Hospital.
Andrew, I don't know if you heard about the service cuts this week, but the story is emerging that the MBTA is going to cold store the single level equipment on the commuter rail, just to let you know.
Interesting. Okay, thanks, George. Just south of downtown, or the CBD, this is just beyond the Mass Avenue station. That's the Carter Playground on the right. This year I was trying to find places in between stations to take pictures, places not everybody goes to all the time. This is from a parking garage north of Ruggles. It's kind of an interesting shot here. You can see the Orange Line sneaking out in the lower left. This is, again, from a different Ruggles parking lot. That's the Northeastern University Engineering Complex there in the middle of the screen. Kind of an interesting building. And here we are entering the Ruggle Station. That's what feeds the subway at the Ruggle Station to MBTA Flyer Excelsiors. Just to document the times, Northeastern University, wear a mask. That's all over the place up there. This is just south of Jackson Square, another place I've been wanting to go for years. And a place I've been before, but not with some foliage. This is south of the Green Street Station on the Orange Line. You can see the Northeast Corridor there on the right. A couple of different views with the Prudential Building and other Massachusetts landmarks in the background. And just for the record, a historical shot of a Type 8 pressed steel car built in 1921 at Forest Hills. This is September 1st, 1951, and former ERA member, the late Bill Armstrong, took this picture. And now we'll take a quick look at the Red Line. That's one of only a few cars that have been delivered, or at least at the time I was there a couple months ago. That's car 1904, one of the few CRRC cars that have been delivered. There's supposed to be 252 on these, which I believe I mentioned before. I think I've seen a few pictures of it testing. I know it's not quite in service yet, but here it is sitting in the north end of Cabot Yard from a pedestrian overpass. Different view here, paired up in the shot with a Pullman Standard from 1985, 88 on the right there. So there's going to be a lot of changes in Boston, so get your pictures while you can. Here's a view of a Pullman Standard car and a Bombardier car on the left. And that is a 1700, that's a UTDC car, built 1987 to 89. And just a block away from where I took that picture is the MBTA's Emergency Training Center. And to take a look at a historical rubber tire vehicle, there's a Mack 2220, also taken by the late Bill Armstrong in 1957. So let's take a quick look at the Red Line. This is the Wallaceton Station, closed January 2018 to August 2019 for renovations. I came here because I didn't have any pictures after it was renovated. Again, just documenting the times. A view from the overpass looking down at the station. Nice clear view here if you wish to visit. A little further down, this is Elm Street in Braintree. Very nice bridge here to take some pictures. I was kind of hoping to get a combo shot here with the Red Line and with MBTA commuter. And I was fortunate enough to see that happening. Basically, the commuter trains to Kingston, Plymouth, Middleborough, Lakeville, and Greenbush all run on this track here on the right. And that's Route 3 on the left. Train of Bombardier cars. I was kind of hoping to get a few shots with some legendary Boston traffic, which wasn't quite as bad on this September day as it has been in prior visits. But you can certainly make the argument you should be on the train with the pictures.
Andrew, question from Carl Jacks. He said, being a New York guy, why do the T trains have red markers displayed in revenue service, if you happen to know that?
Why don't we, George, why don't you take that one?
Oh, I need to let him unmute himself. Go ahead, George.
What did you want to know?
The question from Carl Jackson, why do the T trains have red markers in displayed in revenue service?
They're fixed. They're all fixed. They don't change color.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. So, and there we go with the commuter train, another one of those beautiful HSP 46s built by MPI 2013 to 2014. Looking on the other side of the street, not perfect sun, but I just wanted to show green interlocking there on the right. As I mentioned before, the MBTA, the Greenbush branch heads in that direction. But what else runs there is the Four River Transportation, which basically provides service from the Four River Shipyard in Quincy to the CSX interchange in Braintree. Here is a Four River train, which is a B23-7 coming onto the MBTA at Shipyard interlocking. The train will pull onto the MBTA and basically shove back all the way to Braintree Yard. Just a couple of shots from the other day. This has been on my to-do list for many years, so I was able to get it this fall. And most people, when they go to Boston, they definitely make their way over to Mattapan. I've done it many times, but just a couple of quick shots. Here is a car leaving Ashmont. You can see the Red Line subway in the background. And the other famous location at Milton with 3087. Okay, pictures are too big. I had to put them into a few different presentations. Here's just a quick look at an MBTA map. You can see we're going to take a look now at the Green Line, the light rail trolley, the B, Boston College, C, Cleveland Circle, and D, Riverside lines. One of the other things I wanted to do was try to hunt down some of the new Type 9 cars that are in service. There are 24 of them built by CAF, and they are in service. This is not one, this is a Type 7. And again, we're starting on the B, the Commonwealth Avenue line. This is near the Pleasant Street Station. Boston University provides bus service around their area, bringing people to the trolley. But what I was waiting to see was a new Type 9 car. Here's one with the Boston skyline. Here's a closer view. Some people think they're ugly. It's a little different, but you know, different is good for photography. Heading out on the B, we will continue to Packard's Corner. That's a Type 8 built by Breda. If you notice, there's always a low floor and a high floor in each train, which is good for accessibility. Combo of two Type 7s passing. This is what I was waiting for, the brand new Type 9. The doors opened, it still smelled new. Here we go again, another shot at Packard's Corner, 3915. They go from 3900 to 3923. Continuing further out, there's some really nice scenery along Warren Street. And the end of the line at Boston College, another Breda Type 8. And there's a Type 8 on the right and a Type 9 on the left. So I took this in October. Let me go back to the history file to May 4th, 1980. And we can see a TTC CLRV, just recently retired from Toronto, being tested here in Boston. Note all the PCCs in the background. Now we'll switch to the C line. That's the famous Sitco sign at St. Mary's Street Station along Beacon Street. Famous place for people to photograph. A lot of foliage growing in here. It's not as open as it was throughout my many visits over the years. That's the famous on the platform shot at St. Mary's Street. Nice little curve with some beautiful Boston buildings. A nice Boston Fall shot, Beacon Street and Kent Street. Going away shot with some foliage. And there's one of the new Type 9s. Again, Beacon Street and Kent Street. Moving further out, a nice scenic shot at Washington Street. Always have to document the times. No one will ever forget this election. And I was standing here taking pictures for 15 minutes, looking at my app, seeing that there was going to be a Type 9 coming shortly. And then I see this other guy with a camera on the corner. Turns out to be Peter Ehrlich, who did the show a few months earlier for the ERA. He was in town looking for these cars as well. And there's the Type 9. Nice clock tower to work into the shot. Type 8. Also in Boston. Sign of the times on the East Coast. Switch to the Riverside line for a few pictures. Most of my visits to Boston this year were in the fall. Riverside line is very tough to shoot in the fall with all the trees. Beaconsfield, one of the good sun spots in the afternoon, Chestnut Hill. This was just on my way home, so it was getting a little late. But one last shot here of a Type 8 with the Chestnut Hill sign. Now we'll head up to the north side. I took this picture in the early 90s. This is the old ramp to North Station and the ramp up to the Causeway Street Elevated, which was removed from service in 2004. The green line currently is underground at this location to North Station, which it has been since 2005. This basically feeds the Leechmere Viaduct, which you can see in the background here. This is a shot I took last year from the Science Park station.
Nice.
Currently, this is out of service for the rebuilding of the viaduct and the Green Line extension, which we'll take a look at. You have a question, Bob?
Yes, there was one question on whether you've encountered any problems with police or MBTA personnel with all the Boston pictures you've taken.
No, and I'll be honest, I take all these pictures wearing a Yankee cap too. I'm expecting to have trouble, but I don't. No problem at all.
It's from Peter Ehrlich.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So again, type 8 Science Park. This is the famous shot that everybody takes from the Museum of Science parking lot. This was last year. You come here right now, that's what you see under construction. Interesting marking on the screen. We'll pretend it's not there. So this viaduct was built in 1912. It's being redone for the Green Line extension. A couple of views here. You can see the old 1910 viaduct, which started running in 1912, and the new viaduct in the background. On that curve there, that will be the Leechmere Station. Here's a map of the Green Line extension. Just going to take a quick, interesting map of the Green Line extension. This is the light rail extension beyond a new Leechmere Station along two branches, one to Union Square in Somerville, the other to Tufts University in Medford. Part of it's planned to open in late 2021 at a cost of $2.28 billion for now. Trains at the historic Leechmere Station, which closed earlier this year, will move from the 1922 Loop Terminal, which closed in May, to across Monsignor O'Brien Highway to a new elevated station. The two branches split north of Leechmere, with the Union Square branch following the right-of-way of the MBTA's Fitchburg line. The longer Medford branch follows the MBTA's Lowell line and to five other stations, as you can see on the map. This is the Leechmere Station.
Andrew,
Yes.
that's a little bit of an old map there that you were showing.
Okay.
You could back up just once. Okay, they're only going as far as College Avenue, probably forever.
So they're
Okay,
not going to go all the way. Okay.
they're not going to Winthrop Street. Washington Street is called East Somerville, and Lowell Street is being called Magoon Square.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks,
so
George.
the opening, I checked today, the opening, they don't know yet for sure. They're targeting June 20th for Leechmere. And then next December, either the first or second Sunday for the extension to Somerville. I don't know if it's both branches yet, okay?
Okay. Thanks, George. Couple views of Leechmere. The bus terminal at Leechmere. Here you can see the old Leechmere terminal on the left. The bridge over Monsignor Scanlon is gone, and you can see the new line on the other side. There it is. Let's deal with, anybody know how to get rid of this line here? This is going to drive me nuts. It's like writing.
What I would do is, why don't you, I hate to say, Andrew Ludasi, you're here. You can unmute yourself.
I'm not sure what that's a remnant of it.
Should he reshare his presentation and go back to that slide number maybe?
I don't know if you can right click and just erase. If there's an erase, it's a trace of a mouse is what it is. I don't know if you can clear it out. You could, yeah, you could try quitting and you could try quitting it and just resharing.
Quitting the program and resharing?
Yeah, just unshare and reshare as if you were starting over and maybe it'll go away.
It looks like a Zoom thing, not a PowerPoint thing.
Right, no, it's a Zoom thing. It's a trace of your mouse.
So go and come back in?
Yeah, leave meeting and then just reshare the screen.
Right.
It should be there.
Part extensions.
So you should just click the green share screen again.
Right, I don't think he's back yet. Let me make sure he.
Oh, because he left the meeting.
He left the meeting, yeah. Now what?
Oh, that might be him coming back.
Yes, it is. Good, he's in. Okay, ask to unmute. Okay, all right, so why don't you reshare?
Okay, very good. My apologies for that. I don't
Oh,
know how
no.
to do that. All right, so
Did it go away?
yes, it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. It's
Okay,
a Zoom,
very good.
it's a Zoom remnant. You do when you drag your mouse in some way, you can leave a trace of it.
Right. Okay,
Okay,
thank you, Andrew Ludasi.
thank you. Very good. So again, back to the map. Couple of views at Leechmere. This was one of my primary visits this year to get some Green Line extension pictures. Here is the steel coming out for the new elevated. The steel staging area next to the Leechmere station. This is a picture I took this year. This is Route 28, a few blocks away from Leechmere. If you go back a year in the same spot, they've made a lot of progress. Here is basically the flyover over the MBTA commuter rail and the leads for the Boston Engine Terminal. And this will be the shop complex when constructed, also next to Boston Engine Terminal. So let's take a look out on the line. This is Cross Street in Somerville. Behind me will be the Washington Street Station on the Medford branch. That's the MBTA's Lowell line. That's the other direction. Somewhere over here will be the new station when it's finished. Going a little further out, this is the Ball Square, Magoon Square Station. This was taken this September. And again, going back to September of 2019, you can see there's been some progress. And this is the end of the line at Tufts and Medford. Looks like a big parking garage going in on the right. The biggest progress I saw was here. This is the Union Square Station in Somerville with a Fitchburg line train on the MBTA. You can see the island platform being put in for the Green Line extension. So, keep that on your radar. Go get some pictures when it opens. While we're in Massachusetts, we'll do what everybody does in the summer. We'll go down to the Cape for a few pictures. This is the Cape Cod Central Railroad run by the Mass Coastal Railroad in Hyannis. The MBTA provides service from Boston to Hyannis with the Cape Flyer, which runs Friday, Saturday, Sundays between Memorial and Labor Days. Here's the train laid up in the yard. This is what I came to see, the FL9s, which are used on the Cape Cod Central Scenic train. And you can see in the back there 2 former Susquehanna E9s, which no longer run. The FL9s run tourist trains and dinner trains throughout the summer, the fall, and even now in the winter season. Here is the train at West Barnstable picking up some people for a dinner train. And about an hour later is the Cape Flyer headed back to Boston. That's one of the rebuilt Mass DOT GP40 MCs. I think there's only 2 or 3 of them. And this is what you can do at 8:15 in the summer, or this time of year you could do it at 3:15. But that's the Cape Cod Canal Bridge in the background, a famous photo prop for rail fans in Massachusetts. So like I said, I usually travel on the rails back. So we're going to head from Boston home, a little longer route. If you're a rail fan, you saw Pan Am was recently purchased or in the process of being purchased by CSX. This is their famous office car train, which gets a lot of rail fans to come out and take pictures. Where can you see 1950s F units in service today? So this is close to Wachusetts, which is a commuter rail station on the Fitchburg line. That is passing the Wachusetts station. Heading west towards Albany, this is Miller's Falls, with fall starting to pop out in late September. The reason I put this in was I figured we could show a few trolley shots here. This is the Trolley Museum in Shelburne Falls with a Pullman Standard ex-Boston PCC car that came to Massachusetts from the Brooklyn Electric Railway in Red Hook that didn't really get off the ground. Better view of the car. They have another car that they use in service. This is planned to be cosmetically restored in Boston colors one day. Heading west, the foliage was a little better in Charlemont. This is North Adams, Massachusetts. This is actually in October. That's a Pan Am engine sitting there. I briefly stopped here because I knew the foliage would be great based on some pictures I saw. This is the Berkshire Scenic Railroad, which runs from Adams to North Adams. Here is the train headed back to Adams, passing an RDC and some other equipment in the yard. It's a really nice line to ride. Scenic as well. This is passing the Southview Cemetery in Adams. There's a rail trail along here as well. And the foliage was really rocking in October. This is in Adams, Massachusetts. And that's the new Adams Station. This has all been kind of redone in the last few years. And I believe the ERA was actually going to visit this year with the Metropolitan New York Bus Association. That will probably be rescheduled, hopefully this year. Heading west from North Adams, we're entering New York. This is crossing the Hoosick River in Chickasaw. Probably said it wrong, but it's getting close to Mechanicville. That's the opposite side of the bridge in better light. And crossing the Hudson River into Mechanicville. That's what the train looked like. It was very nice to see this while it ran. Let's head south to New York. This is a scan slide from the New York Central D&H Union Station in Albany. Remember the picture from earlier? This was taken in May 1968. Station closed in 1972 when they moved across to Rensselaer. Heading south from Albany, a quick stop in Hudson. That's the former New York Central Station there. Built in 1874, but rebuilt in 1992. When you go to Hudson, you go for the CSX street running on North 7th Street in Hudson. This happens a couple times a week. Headed further south, we get back into commuting territory, Croton North, with some nice summer light. The old Croton North Station, with a somewhat rare 2 engines on a southbound Amtrak train. This is just north of Croton North Yards with a northbound train to Poughkeepsie. Note the 2 former New Jersey Transit cars there. If I have the story right, I believe they were purchased to replace the Phoebe Snow cars on the executive train, but they've kind of just been sitting around Harmon for a while.
No, that's Randy. Yeah, that's absolutely right. They were going to do it, but it never happened.
Right. Well, maybe in the future. Thanks, Randy. So moving further down, the former 138th Street station in the Bronx. This was a negative that my father took in the 60s. I wish this station were around today. This is the This closed July 2nd, 1973. Everybody knows Grand Central, beautiful place to visit, opened in 1913. Quick look, this is the Yorktown Station on the Putnam Division of the New York Central. This was redone in 2020, and they say they're going to schedule tours once the pandemic is over. Keep that in mind. Quick look at the Harlem line, a T3A at North White Plains, built by GE in 1917. This is another Bill Armstrong shot from 1961. 328 is a R2 built by Alco GE in 1931, also a 1961 shot in North White Plains. And 2 MUs passing just north of the North White Plains station. Headed a little further up, Chappaqua pre-electrification with a southbound FL9 train, 1978. An old New York Central, old New Haven MU in Grand Central, and that interesting New Haven color. Most of these I've seen were in green in the later years. Not too far from where I grew up in the Bronx, Oak Point Yard with New Haven E33s, ex-Virginian, 1964. Nothing like electric freight. We'll go from old to new. Here's the Acela 2 coming back from testing in Boston on the Amtrak Harlem River line. This is Williamsbridge Road in the Bronx. And on its way up to Boston, here we are crossing the Pelham Bay Bridge. This was actually built in 1907. Woodlawn Junction. This is July 1960, taken by J.J. Buckley. That is a EP3. A little further north of that location, notice all of the old look buses from Westchester Surfaceways with a passing New Haven train. This was taken 1968 near Mount Vernon West. Something you could take today, M9. Not that interesting when you look at the old stuff. This is the Mamaroneck station. The old washboards on the New Haven line. Talmadge Hill on the New Canaan branch. Looks, the layout looks the same, but it is different today, obviously. EP5 at Bridgeport. Note the Waterbury RDC just half in view on the left. This was taken August 1963. Going a little further up, Kingston, Rhode Island, taken in June. The station was built in 1875 and modified a few times. I went to Rhode Island actually for a couple of quick shots of these RDCs, which had been out of service for a while. Former BC Rail RDCs used on the Newport and Narragansett Bay Railroad. This is Portsmouth Junction near Newport. And you can, there's always that dilemma of rail lines becoming trails or mixed use. Here you can see how you can use an RDC and still have some other use, as you can see by these bikes, which were actually pretty busy on this day. But the RDC did move. I also wanted to get a picture of former Long Island Railroad coach, P72 2943, repainted into a version of the Long Island Railroad orange and gray, built by Pullman Standard in 55. These cars ran on the railroad until the C3 bilevels from Kawasaki replaced them in 99, and they're scattered all over the country at museums. When I was up there, somebody was telling me that one of the owners or somebody high up is a big Long Island Railroad fan, so there's plenty of Long Island Railroad motif around. So again, this is near Newport, Rhode Island. But since we're talking about the Long Island Railroad, let's come back a little closer to home. Note the Pennsy Railroad stencil there under the front of the MP15. We'll take a look at the Long Island. Here we are at the Clinton Road crossing on the Garden Mitchell Secondary with a moving bus. There we are passing the Clinton Road station, built in 1915 was in use till 1953. Now it's a Garden City Fire Department area. This is what you see on the Long Island Railroad now. Hopefully we'll be out of this soon. Lots of signs all over the place. But let's take a look at the main line. Here's a train of Bombardier built M7s at Queens Tower. Built in 1924, Queens Tower closed as far as staffing goes in January 2020. Here's a train of M9s passing Queens Tower as well. This is taken from the east end of the Queens Village station. Great afternoon shot. Here is a New York and Atlantic freight, which operates on the Long Island Railroad passing Queens Tower. This is the RS-41, which runs most days of the week, most weekdays to and from this location. If this time of year, the sun's even better. Here's a shot of a Progress Rail PR20B on RS-41 last month. Moving east, we reach Belrose. The two tracks to the left go off to the Hempstead branch at Floral Park. The two on the right are the main line. That's an M7. This was right before the pandemic hit. Came out here to take a few pictures. Within 15 minutes, got an M7, a dual mode Long Island Railroad diesel. This is a DM30 AC built in 1997 to 99. Got one of the M9s, which at this point was still in test service, and was lucky enough to get an M3 on the Hempstead branch. These are still in service. They're getting hard to find, but they are still in service.
Andrew, I just found a question was, how did you know when those Acela 2s were being tested, or were you just lucky?
No, there's a lot of information that goes on the various Facebook groups, and there's a lot of good friends that share things as well. I would recommend joining. I think there's an Amtrak Acela Facebook group. There's a lot of information on there.
Very good, thank you.
Sure. So here's RS-41 headed west past Floral Park, into Floral Park, Hempstead branch curving off on the right. This new construction here on the, in between the main line and the Hempstead branch was really the first construction on the third track extension. This part here, between here and Hicksville, the Long Island Railroad is going to add 9.8 miles of a new third track, which will greatly increase capacity. The construction began right here at the 60-year-old South Tyson Avenue Bridge with some shifting and work here. Little zoom shot, you can see where the third track is going to go.
The project is at 58% completion right now. They reported this at the board meeting on Wednesday.
Very good, very good.
On time and on budget.
Two things you want to hear. So being that I live not too far, I like to document this when there's not much else going on. This is the site of the new Hyde Park station. I'm standing on a temporary platform. This was last year. If you go there now, the platform is coming up. And you can see where the third track's going to be, right where the gate is on my right. Here's a shot of a train coming into the station. This was taken probably in September. Here's some construction equipment after they opened the new Hyde Park Road grade crossing elimination, just out of view of the last construction vehicle. And this is the temporary platform. You can see the new Hyde Park sign. Get your two-track pictures soon. It's RS-41. M9 going the other way, just for contrast. And we make a quick change. So this is Maryland Avenue. Head house is kind of coming up here on the corner. This was taken last year. This is the site of I guess it's the elevator up from below and the head house. Here's some shots taken earlier this year. You could see the new platform going up on the right, and I'm standing where the eastbound local track will be when this is finished. That's a M7. And we'll come back to look at the same view last month. You can see third track is actually in some spots. The station is coming up nicely. M9, same location.
What station is this again? One
This
you
is
just were at?
Maryland Avenue.
Maryland Avenue, thank you.
So this was taken, I think it was last month. That is the orange laser train utilizing two former M3 cars, E932, which is X9932, and E775, X9775. This is done to combat the false slip slide conditions. These former MU cars have been fitted with lasers designed by Laser Precision Solutions to blast the pectin residue from the rails produced from fallen leaves. This car was painted orange, or these cars were painted orange, basically to make a senior manager probably happy, since he came from Texas, according to my notes. Texas Longhorn orange. But these cars provide a great service, clearing the rails from leaf residue and keeping the trains rolling during the fall. And you can see the third track here is coming into place. Okay, Nassau Tower. This has been on everybody's watch list for several months. Built in 1923, it will be demolished because of the third track construction. The tower officially closed in July of 2020, with functions moved to the Long Island Railroad's Jamaica Central Control, similar to Queens Tower. Rumor had the tower to be demolished in August, but it's still standing. It was there last weekend when I drove by it. So you might still have a couple of weeks to take pictures. Some of us have been doing it for years, but go get them now while you can. You can see some heavy work being done here in August. That's the substation next to it on the left, which is being dismantled as we speak. That's few views with the tower. Here's a train of M3s, M7s, M9s, RS41, and a parking garage shot suggested to me by a good friend, John Krattinger, provides a great view of the old Mineola Station, which is going to remain. This was the view taken early in the summer. And then next time I came back, the platforms were demolished, and they built temporary platforms at the back of the train now in this view. This is a view you can take today from one of the higher floors in the parking garage. Mineola Station was built in 1923. There's a nice combo shot of the M9 and a DE30 with Winthrop Hospital. Another view. Mineola Station. RS40 headed east. Had several family members and several godchildren born in Winthrop Hospital, so I know the area pretty well. This was taken last month. You can see some work is being done to solidify the area for the high-level platforms. And this was taken earlier in the summer. Nice long lens view from the temporary platform looking at the tower. And an elevated view looking down at the tower, M7s, M9s, RS41. Just happens to be that freight passes every time I'm there. Moving further east, this is the Glen Cove Road bridge replacement. This bridge, according to the Newsday, was from 1942. It was replaced by that bridge in June. It was prefabricated and dropped into place over a weekend. Long Island and the MTA have been doing a great job minimizing delays by doing these things quickly on weekends. This is a picture you can take today. That's the RS40 headed east, passing the Westbury station. Not much has been done to this station as of yet. I haven't been here in about a month, so I'm kind of expecting something to happen soon. New bridges were put in on both sides, but they have done nothing at the platform area. So you could still get some good two-track shots here. This is Call Place. Lots has happened here since I started documenting this. This was taken earlier last year. Here, the platform has been removed and will be replaced with a new one. I'm standing on the temporary. Yeah, they
Andrew,
are. Or
Andrew,
in the
there were
concrete.
two questions. One is, what time of day did you take the Mineola pictures, as weekday or weekend? And the second question was, there's been some rumor that Oyster Bay Branch has some electrified track. Is electrification used at all on it?
Okay, so Mineola, which picture are we talking about? With the tower or from the parking garage?
I think either one.
All right, the tower, it's an
With the freight
afternoon
train,
shot.
the one with the freight happened to go by.
With the tower, that's an afternoon shot, but that's going to be hard to do in the winter because that's kind of like the sun has to be moving over to the north side of the tracks, which doesn't really happen too well. So that's not going to be easy to do. The parking garage shot is a morning shot into about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. You know, the freight is pretty much weekdays only. The electrification goes up to the East Wallaceton Station. There used to be 1 or 2 trains that are scheduled to turn there, not in service. I think that's still the case. And they certainly do use that for these type of construction moves when they don't run east of Mineola. They turn the trains up in that direction as well. I have seen and photographed electrics in East Williston.
Thank you.
This is the Call Place Station last year. And now we'll look today. You can see the overpasses are mostly in. Some finishing work needs to be done. This was taken about a month ago. That's RS 41 headed back west.
Yeah, Andrew, there's one train it's train 1501. It departs from East Williston in the morning at 7:26 a.m. That's it.
In service, Randy?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, 7:26. It goes to Penn, 8:14 arrival.
That's a better answer. So one train in service. So here's Call Place today. Here's the station going up. Some nice early afternoon views. This is early morning. Thank you. We came here for an early eastbound RS 40. Take a look at a few other things. This is the wash train. The railroad runs 2 laser trains, an orange one and a blue one, and it runs 2 wash trains. You can see here bracketed by 2 MP15 ACs. There's a tank car which provides the water, and then there is another that is a former M3 as well, which is being used for this. I'm sorry, it's M1 E401, so it's X9401. This is Lynbrook on the South Shore. This is the other laser train, the blue one, passing Forest Hills. You can see E901 was 9901. Here's the orange train again. This is on the Oyster Bay branch at Glen Cove, taken about a month ago. Another view of 9775. This is B Tower in Bethpage. That's an eastbound RS 40. Not looking worse for wear. A couple of freight views on the eastern end of Long Island. Calverton with the train headed out toward Riverhead. And the TC-82 track inspection car built by Placer American. We're in Riverhead here. That's the Railroad Museum of Long Island on the right. You can see the former BEDT steam engine, which is on display. And you also have on the left there, you have the block limit symbol LD for former Long Island Railroad Superintendent of Transportation, Larry David. Closer view of a freight coming out there. This was a great heads up from earlier in the year. I believe it was March. This is PTC testing for the Long Island Railroad and the New York and Atlantic. 2 New York and Atlantic GP38s went out on the Hempstead branch. This is in Garden City. The trains to Hempstead are on the track in the foreground. That's actually switching off the Hempstead branch onto the Garden Mitchell secondary. But just to see any diesel locomotive out here from New York and Atlantic is quite rare. Here is a shot of an M9 on the Hempstead branch. And
Andrew,
some last...
Andrew,
ahead,
with
Bob.
the question, can the laser cars operate without a diesel engine?
No, I believe the electrical component has been taken out.
Okay, thank you.
Here's a diesel at Lynbrook. with some nice late October foliage at M7 in the same spot. Just some random Long Island shots. To do all this construction, you have to still move the people. Long Island Railroad uses the Central Branch to shuttle people from basically Ronkonkoma down to Babylon to directly go into either directly go into Penn Station with the Z train, or to get you to Babylon to transfer to a train to Penn. So the Central Branch has been getting a lot of use over the summer and the fall. That is one of those trains with a Protect MP15 in Lynbrook, not Lynbrook, down toward Babylon. Babylon Yard with an M3, and Oyster Bay a couple of weeks ago with the fall foliage going away. Take a look at a few historical Long Island shots. Here's Bayside in 1963. The Evergreen branch of the Long Island Railroad on an ERA fan trip under the Myrtle Avenue L in September of 1956. I would have loved to have been on that trip. A Fairbanks Morse out at Montauk, no date on the slide. 8 of these ran for the railroad, CPA 20-5s. Woodside, little something for everyone. Long Island Electric Long Island Railroad and the World's Fair 7 train looking beautiful. This was taken no date on the slide, excuse me. A little further down, this is the Bay Ridge Yard with a New Haven EP3 in 1956, Bill Armstrong shot. Little also on NYA rails, Fremont Tower, where New York Connecting hooked into the Long Island Railroad. So you have some New Haven in the early days of Penn Central here with an FA1, 1969. A couple days later, a nice Jeep in the same spot. I'd love to shoot these today. Looking at some New York trolleys, I did advertise New York City in the 50s. This is a little earlier, 1946, Park Row. J&R Music is right behind me here, or J&R Music was right behind me here, City Hall on the left. These are original Kodachromes from the 50s, scanned last week. A nice view here of the trolley ending and one of the M13 bus, an omnibus pre-OA. This is the end of the B line, Boston Road. This is 3rd Avenue between 137th and 138th, 1946. I guess that's the motorman posing for his shot as he's turning the poles around. Can you believe this is Columbus Circle? This is an original Kodachrome from 1946 at Columbus. B means Broadway. And that's where some of those cars, not exactly those cars, but some of the 600s from the Bronx went to Austria, ran into the 70s. That is one there. You can see one of these in Brantford, one of these in Seashore. Take a quick look at the subway. This is on my former home route, Parkchester, Pelham Bay. This is the St. Lawrence Station, High V, built in 1904-05, taken by Bill Armstrong in October of 1955. Here's a shot at the same location, Low V by Pullman, 1915-16, 47-52. Kind of beats shooting the R62As here. 177th Street on the 2 and the 5 today. You can see the spur. Actually, there's a better shot here. Where the spur used to go off to the Bronx Park Station, which closed in August of 1952. This was taken in 1966 by Bill Armstrong as well. Manhattan shot, 3rd Avenue L. This is 1955, May 1955, the MUDCs, shortly before abandonment, 1955, 59th Street. This is an original, one of my oldest slides in my collection, original 1940, February 8th, 1940, 9th Avenue L train north of 155th Street, coming from the Bronx. This is a H. Wilhelm slide. This obviously continued running after as the Polo Ground shuttle, but this is pre-Polo Ground shuttle when the 9th Avenue L was still running. So this is cool. Don't want to leave out the Brooklynites, the Rockaway Avenue Station on the Fulton Street L, April 1956, April 22nd, 56, 4 days before it closed. Myrtle Avenue L, this is the Tompkins Station looking east, May 1958, March 1958. It closed January 4th, 1969. There are some trolley bus fans around. I'll just throw a few of these in. This is the Williamsburg Bridge Bus Terminal, May 31st, 1958, St. Louis car bus. They had, the fleet was 3,000 to 31.99. The 47 Tompkins ran until February 1960. This is a Joe Saida shot. For you baseball fans, there's Ebbets Field in Brooklyn. This is Prospect and 20th Street, May 31st, 58. The Dodgers moved in 1957. It kind of dates it. If the Mets want to go to California, I won't object. Just my opinion. Here we are. This is the Bergen Avenue shops in 1960. Just talking to somebody yesterday about the Bergen Avenue shops, so there's my only picture. 3018, St. John's and Ralph, Bergen Avenue B65 bus, August 1st, 1959, Bill Armstrong shot. This ran till July 1960. So good to remember the history. Back on the rails, this is Fresh Pond Yard in 1956. There's the Clark Bluebird experimental car built in 1938. East New York Yard looks a little different today, 1955. Some standards in there, some multis. Interesting stuff. Here is Branford's car 1001 on the Connecticut Turnpike in Darien, headed up to Branford after abandonment. This is October 25th, 1956.
I was probably in that. Russ Jackson speaking.
Oh, very good.
Wrote it to Connecticut.
Would have made for some nice pictures, as you can see. Still in use, this is the 9th Avenue car barn, May 15th, 1955. This last ran October 31st, 56. And that car 1010 has that experimental exhaust vent on the top of the car, the only one. Going into the Ocean Parkway Tunnel, November 5th, 1955. Threw this in for my friend Anthony, if he's still on. The Corona Yard, 1964. Note the Port Washington, Long Island Railroad trains in the background. And we come into reality earlier this year. Our 32s last ran a few months ago, October 2020, actually. They came back into service after an earlier retirement with some issues with the R179s. This was taken at Woodhaven Boulevard again in October, one of the last days of service. It's a slide I scanned from that I took myself, actually. This is in East New York with a J and L going over from a now abandoned tower. Slightly out of order on that shot. That goes with the R32s, but that's what you see in the subway. And remember, the R42s went earlier this year as well. This is Cypress Hills, one of the last days of service. And I just threw this in. So there you got a ride on an R42. Here we are, 75th Street. Again, these were the last days of service. R160 in the Cuomo colors at Sudfin Boulevard and Archer, but I was waiting for this. And again, these are my last shots of the 42s. Just for the record, some new buses coming into New York. It's Prevost running for MTA bus in Yonkers. These will be all over the city soon. Better times, you can see in the corner there, the R9s. This is the Wonder Wheel in Coney Island. This time of year, we would be planning which trip we're gonna ride on the special R1 through 9 trains on Sunday. Hopefully, we get back to that next year. But just to remember, here's a shot. This is the old stuff now, our 44s on the end, near the 8th Avenue station. Get your pictures, 1971 to 73. So heading from here, we'll jump into Jersey. That is the Pennsylvania Heritage ALP 46, seen here at Linden. It's nice New Jersey Transit did that. Just a local bus in the same area for those who like. Headed south on the corridor, this is Metuchen. So everybody was scrambling over the last year or so to get photos of these. Here we are at Edison. Just happened to catch the ME2 freight coming by at the same time. Got it posed with a New Jersey Transit veterans stickered engine. And that's the ME2 there with the caboose, which backed up to service some areas in Edison. This is certainly a nice green track. Headed further down, crossing from New Jersey into Pennsylvania, those are some SEPTA MP54s. This was taken in the early 80s. This is earlier this year, January or so, the Amtrak Coke Bear ACS 64 crossing the Schuylkill River in Philly. And a few shots at 30th Street. That was the best shot I had of the Acela till it went to Boston. There it is, sitting in 30th Street Yard. You go to Philly now, you take some shots of the Kawasaki's. These were built in 81, 82. One of these days they'll have to be replaced. This is near the portal at 40th Street. Just a couple of shots from September. But the reason to go down earlier this year was to get the Route 15 while it was still running. Lots of rail fans were down there. Daily, the 15 is currently out of service. The PCCs are being overhauled in Woodland. I believe I read earlier today that they will be back in late 2021. There's 18 of these PCC2s. We'll take a look at the line. This is the Northern Liberties Loop. Lots of nice angles can be taken here. Headed west on Girard Avenue. Here's where the Reading crosses. PCC in late winter light. A friend of mine owns a bus in Philly, an ex-Oklahoma City bus, which made its way east, painted in a National City Lines color. So we posed it in a few spots for photos. And the western end of the line, 63rd and Girard. And a couple of night shots. This was toward the end, maybe a week or two before it ended. Again, this is the loop at Northern Liberties. That's what you'll see today. This is the end of the Route 15 at Richmond, Westmoreland. The construction has progressed here, putting the loop back in. Hopefully when this comes back in late 2021, there'll be some kind of split service between Northern Liberties and Richmond, Westmoreland. And when you go to Philly, why not take a look at the United States, which has been sitting in South Philly for quite a while now. Okay, that's.
Andrew, what yard was that picture of the blue Comet train in?
The picture of the blue Comet train.
The experimental, the subway train.
Oh yeah, Fresh Pond.
Fresh Pond, thank you.
So let's take a look at this. This is, well, we're in Penn Central here, but that's a Penzi MP54 at Media.
Yeah.
This area is interesting now. This is June 1978. SEPTA is rebuilding and restoring service between Elwyn and Wawa. 3.5 miles of track. You can read this here. Several bridges are being replaced, a new rail yard, and a new station at Route 1 in Wawa. So we'll take a quick look at this. This is the former Glen Riddle Station, which when I was there in, I guess this was June, was basically just ripped out and is in the process of going in. I think this is like 70% finished now when last I looked. This is Lanai. That's a new bridge that just went in over the summer. This part is single track here around some curves to get to Wawa. This is the former Lanai station. That SEPTA sign was still there in September when I was back. You could see the rail. This has been laid since I was there. Some other shots around Lanai, made in the USA. And just beyond here is the approach to the yard. And that's where the middays, the overnight storage will be for the extension. This is the actual Wawa station, right off Route 1, taken again in September. You can see the island platform is going up. That's the bridge over Route 1. Station is just on the other side of the bridge there, and the right of way. A little further on the line, the line is used by the Westchester Railroad as a tourist line. This, again, was electrified from Wawa past here at Glen Mills all the way to Westchester. That actually ran until 1986. This here is the Glen Mills station. This was taken in 1973. This was taken actually a month ago. This was taken in 1973. Penzi MP54s. Continuing, actually looking in the other direction, we have a former Reading MU on the back of the train. But continuing down the line, this is by the Cheney station, taken a month ago. That is a former Canadian Pacific RS-18U. Here it is with the Cheney station, which is now a post office. If we do then and now, this again was September. This is 1973, same place. And this is later in 1973. Scan slides. This is the Westchester Station, September. This is the Westchester Station in 1979, as taken by ERA legend Jerry Landau. That must have been a fan trip. That's the end of track today, again, used by the tourist train. Hopefully one day, maybe the tourist train can share with a commuter train. And handsomely painted Westchester Railroad C424 ex-Canadian Pacific as well. So now I did mention a road trip. This was really the only significant trip I took during the year. It was a February drive from Queens all the way out to Arizona. So I will give you a few highlights, and the purpose of this trip was to tie together some electric transit systems I had not yet seen. But we started in Roanoke. This is Amtrak departing Roanoke, headed up to Washington. On the right there is the Hotel Roanoke, which was built in 1882 for the N&W. Jeff Ehrlitz, who writes your bulletin, told me many years ago to go have the peanut soup, which is fantastic in there. It was a good recommendation. It snowed in Knoxville, so we stopped briefly to let the snow clear. Made our way into Tennessee. This is Nashville, the Tennessee Central Railway Museum with some old F units. Just happened to be lucky to get a tourist train, or an excursion train, I should say, for the Tennessee Museum, which their excursions are operated by the Nashville and Eastern. That's a B39-8. Where do you see a train like that today, other than maybe via going out to Halifax? The state capitol in Nashville, Tennessee. The goal of the night was to get to Memphis. We got there early enough that the Memphis streetcar was running. As you all know, it was out of service for quite a while. The green line is still out, and the Madison Avenue line is still out. Only Main Street is currently running. They actually had 2 fires, and they reopened just the Main Street line in 2018. The other 2 lines are scheduled to open in 2022, and the Gomaco cars that ran in Charlotte for years are coming here to help open the service. So we'll take a look at a few shots on the south end of the Main Street line. That's the red line in the middle of your screen. We stayed at the Central Station Hotel, which was the former Central Station in Memphis. That second window up from the left was our hotel room, so another great view looking out at passing streetcars. But we wanted to go eat downtown, so we jumped on this car 234, built for Melbourne, Australia, one of their W2 cars, and rode a pretty much empty car up to eat on Beale Street. My wife and I were the only ones in here. Here's a car passing the famous Orpheum Theater downtown. And just since we can, not too much noise because it was going so slow. But anyway, here's the hotel in the morning. It seems as if Memphis is going to put in a new station. This new little turnback station was put adjacent to the station. The cars previously had stopped at the other side of the intersection. So this is probably a good idea because the station is a huge bar and restaurant as well. A lot of people come to it, so people can get off right across the street instead of getting off in the middle of the street. Just so happened to get a CN train passing the old station. Amtrak does stop here as well. Another view with the Central Station Hotel. Heading west through Arkansas. Only made a couple of stops where we saw something coming. This is West Memphis, Arkansas, with a BNSF freight. Made a quick stop in downtown Little Rock. I visited here a couple times before, including the ERA convention that Jack May ran a couple of years ago, or probably 10 years ago now. You could see the lines. We're going to concentrate basically on the Little Rock Chamber to the Presidential Library Heifer International area. Here's the car running downtown in Little Rock. These were built by Gomaco. 3.4 mile line using Gomaco cars. Opened in 2004. I believe the ERA convention was 2007. This was better used, but not doing too well either. It's what the bus transfer center looks like downtown for those who are interested. And this is coming in from the Heifer International toward downtown. This was a later extension from the opening. This is 2nd Street, a block away from the major downtown district. As I said, it was just a quick stop since I had been there a couple times before. A quick view of the Little Rock Capitol, Little Rock State Capitol. Another place on my to-do list forever was Fort Smith, Arkansas. This is a place that runs a Bernie and another car every once in a while. Here it is coming in. Basically, this is a original Fort Smith car that is used on a short tourist line. They have a couple other cars, which you'll see later. They actually let visitors operate the car. We were able to do that. Here's a photo of it posed in front of the court and city hall. Here is the car at that location. Car does do some interesting things like crossing some tracks. This is the other end of the line by a nice brewery, brew pub that I would like to go back and visit one day. It's kind of a short line, it moves slow, it's a decent ride. Unfortunately, a couple of months after I visited, they got hit with a really bad storm, and on their Facebook site, it showed the gift shop that we had just been in was pretty much totaled. I was looking for their website earlier today and I saw it was no longer in service. So I have to do some research to see, hopefully they're at least in good shape. This is the car barn for the line. On the right, car 50 was built in 1904 by St. Louis for hot springs. And the other car is car number 6, built for Veracruz. Very friendly people in here. And they have a part source, which was purchased or donated and brought here to the museum. And just like everywhere else in the country, there's a former Long Island Railroad car used as a diner just outside of town. The Fort Smith Railroad also operates. We drove overnight from there to Oklahoma City. I was not planning to take pictures here. That was for later in the week. But on the way out at 5 o'clock in the morning, I grabbed a quick shot at Mickey Mantle Station. Obviously, as a big Yankee fan, this was where I wanted to start. Heading towards El Paso, we made a few little stops. This is the world's littlest skyscraper in Wichita Falls, Texas. I'm actually talking to you from a higher position than that building right now, as probably many of you are. There is a Wichita Falls Traction Company car. There is no information that is accessible on the internet about this. I will have to do some more research, but I figured based on the audience today, you would be interested in seeing. Heading west, we eventually reach El Paso, which we will do in this show. So again, arriving in El Paso late at night. This is what we saw right outside the hotel. Now, Carl Jackson gave you a wonderful detailed look at the El Paso streetcar 2 months ago. But if we have any other technical questions, at least we have an expert on to answer. This was my room in the Hotel Indigo. Open the window and there's the UP yard. The Amtrak station is sort of behind this building. Let's take a look at the El Paso streetcar. Again, Carl did a wonderful job, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. The El Paso streetcar run by Sun Metro, 6 refurbished PCC cars by Brookville in Pennsylvania, 2 painted for each color scheme, representing each decade of service, the 50s, 60s, and 70s. You'll see pictures of all of them. Opened November 9th, 2018, 4.8 miles around 2 loops from the impressive downtown bus terminal next to the car barn to the University of Texas in El Paso. Operated and maintained by Sun Metro and run lovingly by ERA friend Carl Jackson. This was my first time getting into El Paso with the streetcars running. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't so great, so we won't show too many pictures from this day. But here's one leaving the car barn for morning service. I discovered what time the cars pulled out and made sure I was in the right place to take the pictures. And a nice little tour of the car barn. Here's 1511 and 1512, a spotless facility with very nice employees and a very professional operation. Nice builder's plates showing you that this 1512 was from San Diego as 519. View inside the car. It smelled new even though it was running for a year. call must have a special spray. The call explained the pantograph usage 2 months ago. This specially designed area here enables you to get close and troubleshoot things. Beautiful old logos back. And let's take a look at the line. This is the main bus terminal downtown. The cars run sort of in front of the bus terminal in service and behind the bus terminal to pull into the car barn. This car is pulling into the car barn. They have some buses specially wrapped for the streetcar coming. You can see they're coming 2018. Here are the cars pulling out on a beautiful day. Note the great graphics on the maintenance building in the background. That's the current paint of the buses. And again, this is morning pullout. So we'll take a look at the line. It's basically two loops that you can ride around in their entirety. Here we are. This is by the baseball stadium, just north of the downtown maintenance area with a passing bus. Right next to it's actually Southwest University Park. And that Brio there is their BRT. PCCs glide throughout on the streets very quietly. I was lucky enough to be in El Paso for a hailstorm. I figured leaving New York in February, I'd be pretty safe to avoid snow in Texas, but I was wrong. Here are the cars turning up Stanton for their straight ride up to the university. A couple of pictures downtown. Headed up Stanton. Nice little zoom shot showing the grades that the cars have to climb. Stanton and Schuster with the city in the background. And this is almost at the end of the line by the Glory Road Transit Center and University. There's a fantastic parking garage located in the right place to get some nice Texas mountains. Most famous Walgreens. And this is some artwork at the Glory Road Station. It's a night shot here. Coming back in daylight for some nice pictures. So cars turn and head down Oregon for the ride into downtown El Paso. That's the Glory Road Station. And again, heading down Oregon to downtown. I was here 3 days to make sure I had some sunny weather. The first two were not great, but the last one was. And again, coming into downtown. That's the current system. Again, Carl went into a lot of detail. I'm going to show you a few pictures from my prior visit in 2008. This is a car that was used for a restaurant. I'm not sure if it still is, but it was downtown. There were 3 cars on private property east of downtown. And then there's the location where the cars were taken from for use on this new line. This is at the end of the runway in El Paso International Airport. I was fortunate that Mr. Lorenzen from the ERA put me in touch with somebody from El Paso who actually got us permission to go on the red runway to take these pictures. After taking these pictures in 2008, I would never believe that these cars would actually run in service. But Brookville and the city of El Paso did an amazing job. All the years of jet fuel dropping on the top of them, whittling away in a desert. That's the interior of the cars that are in service. 2008. That's one that's in service too. and Juarez. So I guess I should mention as well, El Paso went a few years here without electric rail service. The international line, which closed May 4th, 1974, connected El Paso and Juarez, Mexico, across the Rio Grande using 20 ex-San Diego PCCs from 1937. That's what you're looking at here. That's what's in service today as well. We'll take a look at the legacy line. Again, this is what ran until 1974. This is the Cotton Street facility where they were maintained, which I believe is still in use today by some city agents, some other city agency. And these cars, 1514 is one that's currently in service, but this is what it looked like in the 60s. So a shot of 1504, which you saw earlier. 1506 had this special wrap for a while for Mexico's finest beer. And back to the present. This is San Jacinto Plaza. Seems like a very festive place. I will go back. Some interesting artwork here, downtown El Paso. And again, I had the perfect hotel room. If you grow up in the Bronx, you always try to leave yourself a little extra notice if somebody comes in your room. That's what I always do. But if you look on the right, they put me in a room with a Dallas PCC on the wall in El Paso. And that's a better shot at what you saw on the wall there from my collection, an original shot from the 50s. So while we were in El Paso, we decided to make a very long day trip, 5 hours each way, to Tucson. That was the only other electric system in North America I have not yet seen. My wife went to school in Tucson as well, so we got to see some friends. But the idea here was to come out and see the Sunlink Tucson streetcar running from west to east here through downtown Tucson. And we'll show you some pictures. This is along 4th Avenue on the line. This was also track that used to be used by the Heritage Line, which I'm sure many of you saw before the light rail came in. This is a 3.9 mile line from Arizona Health Sciences Center to the past the University of Arizona campus, the main gate to downtown Tucson and the Mercado district. There's a fleet of 8 of these United streetcars, and 6 of them are in service at any given time, from 101 to 108. Here's a few pictures along 4th Street. Again, this is where the Heritage line used to run. I took this in February, and I took this in 2008 in basically the same place. That is an Osaka car from Japan. The Heritage Line no longer operates. I think there was some talk in the beginning of trying to work something out where they could run together, but I don't think that's going to happen based on where we are. But let's hope for the best. Back to downtown Tucson, one of these cars. The United 200 is largely identical to the 100 model, which is used in Portland and Washington, D.C. The only difference is these cars have air conditioning. The design of the 100 is based on the Czech-made Skoda 10T. So it's a familiar looking car. Again, downtown Tucson, that's what all the buses have looked like for 15 years. Some pictures here headed under Amtrak and UP towards the college, heading up 4th, turning on University. This is University Boulevard Tyndall Station. That's basically what most of the stations look like, nice and simple.
Andrew, is the Osaka car anywhere to be found? Is it in storage or?
I think they have some cars in their barn, which is right by where I shot that picture that you saw. And then I read this morning that they moved some cars off site to a new facility that they purchased 2 years ago. So I don't know if if that car is still on the rails or it's in storage in the other place.
Okay.
University streetcar line, talking about the legacy service, which ran until 1930. Then you had a historic service for 20 years or so, and now you have this, the Sunlink. Here we're turning from basically the university area, passing some campus buildings here at 2nd Street. And again, we have on both sides here, University of Arizona buildings. Inside of the cars, these are very well used. I just happened to take a picture in one that wasn't. And this is from the main parking garage to the University of Arizona. Interesting wraps on the cars. Nice sunny Arizona day, the way it's supposed to be in February. 2nd Street and Cherry. By the U of A baseball stadium. Tried to get some pictures looking for U of A logos, some fraternity buildings. It's a nice underpass here under Speedway Boulevard. And then you pop up at the other side at some other university buildings. And this is the current terminal on the sort of northeast end. There are plans to extend. Some artwork here too. I don't know what that's supposed to be, but okay, so now we're going to head home quickly into Arizona, Las Cruces, White Sands National Monument. I like to do national parks too. I won't bore everybody, but I just threw a few shots of this because it was spectacular. Not like Orchard Beach in the Bronx where I used to go. Looks like you're in Alaska. A quick trip east to get to Dallas. We passed Roswell, New Mexico, for you bus fans, where the RTS was last made. And there was one sitting in downtown. Roswell's an interesting place, lots of UFO stuff. Drilling machines all over this part of Texas. For a kid from the Bronx, this is definitely interesting terrain. Welcome to Texas, the drive friendly, the Texas way. Lubbock, Texas, quick stop for some pictures. For those of you who like 50s music, I'm sure you know this. Wind energy is everywhere, as it should be. So heading east, we actually went to Oklahoma City first. But before we got there, just west of Oklahoma City, a good friend, Ray Mercado, told me about this, the El Reno Trolley, which has been on my list for a while. This is basically a former SEPTA from Philadelphia Norristown line car, what was called the Stratford, built by Brill in 1924, used on the Norristown line until 1986. It's currently used for a weekend tourist service for the Canadian County Historical Society Museum in El Reno, Oklahoma. It was built as Philadelphia and Western 60, rebuilt and renumbered to 165.
Yeah, the trucks changed.
In 1986. Sold in the early 90s to the Keokuk Junction Railway, where it ran over the Mississippi River, and sold here in the late 1990s to El Reno, where it was renumbered to 145 and converted from electric operation to propane for use in Oklahoma.
It has different trucks.
It has different trucks too. Probably when they rebuilt it, they did it.
Yeah, I wonder where they got them.
I have no idea. Here's what it looks like today. That's what it looked like when I took that picture when I was 12. Villanova, that's car 165 in Philly. But anyway, the other interesting thing is the only qualified operator is 90 years old. And he's very nice, gave us a wonderful tour. Unfortunately, we got there and it was cloudy for the ride, but we were able to get some pictures in the sun later. We're the only two on the car as usual. He's given us a nice little rundown of all the historic pieces of interest in El Reno. This is downtown, probably about noon on a weekday. We stopped to photograph with the theater, a few shots out the front window so you could see what the line looks like. We photographed it with the Butts Flower Shop. The the main school downtown, and basically every turn. Nice guy, did a great job. So of course we parked, we started to go through the museum, and then I saw the sun come out. So I asked him if he'd be kind enough to at least roll it into the sun. So we were able to get a few shots in the sun. If you plan to visit, I would definitely email them or call them ahead of time. They knew we were coming and we had a nice ride. But if there's only one operator who's 90 years old, you want to make sure you have some contact before. This is only about a half an hour or so from Oklahoma City. They have a nice museum that you can go through as well with all kinds of railroad history. It's in a old train station.
It's about as
Downtown
complete a rebuild as anybody's ever done. You'd never know what it was.
Oh yeah, very nice job. Very nice.
It looks,
Former Rock Island Station.
Old Rock Island Station, yes. UP right outside, and then we jumped in the car, went back to Oklahoma City, and we had 2 days here, one nice day, one not so nice day. We stayed down in Bricktown, not too far from the Mickey Mantle station. So I'll give you a ride throughout the loops. Basically, we'll start down in the bottom right there at East Bricktown. Here's the streetcar, just in case you need to synchronize your watch. So this is basically the terminal. It's a 4.8 mile line, 7 Brookville Modern Liberty streetcars, 3 red, 2 blue, and 2 green. Opened December 14th, 2018. Streetcars use overhead wires except when going under the BNSF downtown, where cars run on battery for between 2 stations on both sides of a loop. There's 2 routes, a 4.8 mile downtown loop covering the full line and a shorter Bricktown loop, which covers a 2 mile line, which only runs on major shopping days, which I'm not even sure would be running during the pandemic. 7-day service. The Bricktown Loop only operates, like I said, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So here's one of the cars leaving from the East Bricktown station. Sure, that's a well-used bathroom in that IHOP. Here we are in front of the Chickasaw Bricktown station, Chickasaw Bricktown Ballpark. Makes a nice photo prop for different colored cars. Another statue, this one's of Johnny Bench, who played here. This is what a station looks like. Santa Fe hub, because it's right next to the Amtrak station, which was of Santa Fe heritage. Cars come in here with the pantograph on. There's some little artwork here. I'll do it here. Here's a car with the pantograph up, and then the pantograph goes down, and the car goes under the bridge right behind me. Here's a view inside the car. And heading around the Bricktown Loop, we're coming under the BNSF/Amtrak. We're passing the basketball arena, which is behind me on the right. The cars loop around the Chesapeake Energy Arena, which is where the Oklahoma Thunder basketball team plays. That's the Scissortail Park Station, which is where they expect you to go to get on the car after the game, though there are stations on 2 of the sides. Here it is with some better light. A lot of construction going on here. There's a massive park over my right shoulder that all those cars produce people to come in and use. And this again is the Bricktown Loop. That is a Bricktown Loop car. The regular downtown car goes straight at that point. That is a regular downtown car coming from downtown onto the Bricktown Loop. Lucky to get an Amtrak Heritage engine sitting up there. Better shot of it leaving.
You said these cars run on a mix of under pantograph and with batteries, correct?
That is correct. Mostly with pantograph, just a short section with batteries in 2 spots. Mickey Mantle Plaza, Mickey Mantle Station. Now we'll take a look at the downtown loop. Basically, cars at this point run up towards the Art Park area on the north end of town. That is the Oklahoma City Memorial, the unfortunate event with the federal building over 20 years ago. This is from inside the park. The cars run right outside. And that is just a quick look at Oklahoma City. There is a nice railroad museum there that has this restored F unit. The Oklahoma City Capitol, Oklahoma Capitol. And just so you know where they came from, I mentioned Brookville before. Here's one of the cars with a San Francisco PCC at Brookville. And here is basically the same thing again with the Chicago version of the San Francisco PCC. And we'll take a quick look at we'll move into the Dallas area, take a quick look at the Tex Rail. And if you notice that nice FL9 in the back, which came from the New York area, they also have some cars that came from Connecticut as SPVs, which ran by themselves many years ago, but recently ran for Shoreline East as passenger cars. Two of them have been restored for use. This one's actually on the train. And just a couple of quick shots here. The Grapevine Vintage Railroad runs from here in Grapevine to Fort Worth near the stockyards. This Tex Rail opened maybe a year or two ago and basically connects the northern part of the Dallas Metroplex area from Fort Worth to the airport. Here's a shot of the old and the new as far as DMUs go. One of the reasons I wanted to stop here was to get the FL9s because I saw they were just recently painted before I came. There's 2014, what it looks like today, better, closer view. That's what I remember it as in Grand Central. And I know it's not the same number, but there's 2014 for Metro North. I took that picture when I was 8 in Poughkeepsie. A few more views here. This red looks nice in the sun. A couple of shots of the Tex Rail DMU, the Smithfield Station. It wrong rails, which takes a little while to get used to. But if any of our European friends want to visit from certain countries, they'll feel right at home. I'd like to go back and ride. I didn't have a chance. This is the other commuter rail service in the area, Trinity Railway Express. It's been around for a while now. Open service with RDCs, which are now sitting in Vermont. You'll see some pictures of them in the RRE show in January, if you choose to tune in. This is the Fort Worth Intermodal Center station with a F59PH for Trinity Rail. There's that Heritage engine again in Fort Worth. Here's TRE passing Amtrak. It's cool to see these trains running through the building. There is a nice interurban that's been here for a while now too. It was at a work convention here in 2015 and they actually opened it up so you could go inside. This is what used to run in the area, the famous Leonard's M&O subway. This ran up into the 2000s with modernized PCCs that look like that. They do have a car on display, which I didn't get in the show, but I can put in the January one. Another few shots of these. The reason I was focusing here was to get these leased Montreal F40s, at least ex-Amtrak, ex-Montreal F40s that run for Larry's Truck and Electric. Good to see used stuff in use. Again, coming through the building. Here they are moving. The Irvine Station. And one of the better light shots I was able to get of the F40s. We'll head into downtown Dallas. This is what you see today. This is what I saw in 1997. Amtrak headed north. Those of you who have been to Dallas know this area. This is the unfortunate area for the bookbindery there on the left and the president at the time. This is the light rail in downtown. That is the tourist attraction. Somebody just put an eyeball downtown and there were lots of people taking pictures of it. Had a nice sunny day toward the end of my visit here in Dallas. This is coming back from the airport on the new extension that opened in 2015, not too far from downtown here. This is up at Las Colinas. I came up here to take a look at this personal transit system. It operates basically a monorail type thing for an apartment complex. I'm sure you've seen and heard of it. There is a direct transfer to the Dallas light rail. It runs backwards that way as well. So again, there's a series of buildings. It's a pretty intense line. The guy actually, while I was taking the picture on the water, was taking one of these, opened the door and said I should come up and take a ride. I didn't know if it was open to the public, but I did. There's two employees, motorman on the right. Just again, a little system that serves a couple of apartment buildings, sort of northwest of Dallas. Not the greatest of days, but this would have been directly into the sun, so at least I had a little cover. Some freight engines here for Dallas, Garland, and Northeastern with a light rail going over. Went up to the Frisco Discovery Center to do something out inside in the rain. Some nice old nods to railroads of the past in this little place. There's a great display outside of all kinds of old equipment, but with the weather, I didn't do too much out there. This was coming back from a trip with my wife down to Waco. This is Corsicana, Texas, Southern Traction Company, St. Louis car built in 1913 on display in town. And going into the last section, go through these quickly. This is the McKinney Avenue Trolley. They have an ex-Toronto PCC. This is a very nice historic operation that runs in some affluent parts of Dallas. It's a nice tourist railroad. Have this nice turntable at the connection here to the Dallas Light Rail, which is at an underground station. That's a Stone and Webster car, which is known for being operated in Dallas. This is, again, the Uptown Station. Just a couple of pictures here. Came back at night. It's a Melbourne car. I won't make you watch the whole thing, but we do have it for the record. This is one of the things I came to see. The Dallas streetcar also uses the Brookville Liberty concept. There's no overhead wire on this bridge. It runs from Union Station into a nice area of Dallas across the river. This picture, if only it weren't for some power lines, would be fantastic with the skyline. But I threw these in so you could see the proximity. It has been open since 2015, running for the length of a couple of stations. It just got a recent extension beyond the current terminal, which we'll take a look at here. This is one of the new stations just outside of downtown. The pantograph has to go down to go over that bridge to go into the city. That's as good as you can do with the skyline shot without a overhead wire in the view. This is the new terminal, Bishop Arts. It's a short line, also well used. This is a nice neighborhood with some nice restaurants to partake in should you be visiting Dallas. You can see the bumping block there down beyond the car. My quick drive home, quick views at Shreveport of Kansas City Southern, one of my favorite paint schemes on locomotives. I went into Mississippi specifically to get pictures of these former URHS F units that were originally Chicago Northwestern were lent to Metro North for a couple of years to operate during the time the FL9s were starting to fail. And then they were painted by Metro North and North White Plains and donated to the URHS. They were on the Cape May seashore lines for many years. And then Iowa Pacific bought them, unfortunately, a few years before they folded. And now they're sitting severely vandalized in Canton, Mississippi. And this is what they look like today. That's what operates on the line right next to where the engine is. Iowa Pacific equipment, if you notice the two bi-levels on the right, they're Long Island Railroad from creation. The Iowa Pacific E unit there has operated all over the place. It's been on the Saratoga North Creek. It's been on, it went to Spencer, and it's been in Mississippi for a while now. Just on the way home, Elvis's house. Back where we started, Roanoke. This is pre-pandemic, big freight downturn, lots of engines sitting around.
Andrew, it's
Yes.
not a downturn. That's all because of precision railroading.
Right.
All the railroads, as you know, are mothballing lots and lots of their engines.
Right. Do it more efficiently. So my last stop on this road trip was New York and Greenwood Lake to take this picture. Those of you who know New Jersey railroading know that's what it looks like today. Basically, this line has been removed. Morristown and Erie hauled out the New York and Greenwood Lake equipment, and it's now up on the up in Honesdale or Hawley, Pennsylvania, awaiting a new home in several different places, including Port Jervis. Here's some of the last moves, getting some of the final equipment out of the Dundee Spur here in Garfield, New Jersey. Probably many of you on this show were there, crossing the Half Moon Trestle. And that's what street railroading is supposed to look like. And here's the train the next day, headed up to Port Jervis and Honesdale. There's a former Long Island Railroad power pack on there. Here we are at Port Jervis. And this is where the train was sitting last month in Honesdale. I just read something that it went further onto the Sturbridge line. I showed you the Pennsy Heritage engine. Here's New Jersey Transit's Erie Lackawanna Heritage engine. Few shots of it. This is Spring Valley. It's really nice that New Jersey did this. Here's Oradell on the Pascack Valley. I don't know if Randy's still on, but almost in New York.
He is. He is.
Almost in Rockland. The other Erie Lackawanna Heritage, the one used by Conrail Shared Assets, the NS 1700 on OI 16, is Port Reading Yard. A few pictures of this. This was the hot item of the summer. Here we are at CP Karen. Here's the going through the Perth Amboy Station on NJT. We can go back in time here. A shot my father took of a GG1 at Perth Amboy. And here we are crossing the river. This bridge is in the process of being replaced. You can't really get these pictures today because there's all kinds of construction equipment around. Some NJT crossing. And let's go back 25 years ago here. GG1 4877. And just about everything I've seen crossing here. I didn't take all of these. This is an E60. My favorite, the E8s. This was a fan trip using the Erie E8s. Conrail E8s. If it ran in New Jersey, it went over this bridge. And here's the Perth Amboy side of the bridge. You can get some interesting shots here as well. Nice place to sit and watch trains. Just the wrong side of the sun for the moment. This is a Mike Glicken slide taken in the late 60s at South Amboy of Pennsy Sharks. The Jerry Landau slide, same place, same vintage, maybe a little bit later. 4877 just brought the train to South Amboy from New York City. The E8s will be on to take it down to Long Branch. Down by Red Bank, freight used to go every Thursday. It seems to be flipping around a little bit now, but this is a shared assets train going down as well. You can see nice New Jersey Transit stuff here. That's what you saw 10 years ago or 15 years ago. ALP 44s, all in storage. Another shot my father took the last day of the GG1s. This is the Matawan station. If you go to the exact same place today, that's what you see. Maybe not the Pennsy Heritage engine, but same exact location. The other Heritage engine, the CNJ 4109. This is on Mother's Day, leaving Secaucus Junction. Further out on the line, just beyond Hohokus, looks like a tree's growing from the top, but that's a cell phone tower. Ridgewood on the Erie. Another last shot at Bernardsville. Get your pictures of the arrows. You know, eventually they'll go. This was the news of the month. The NJT brought back 2 F-40s. They run, they don't run, they break down. Here it is in Port Jervis on a weekend about a month ago. So let's take a look. Let's end with a few news pictures. I advertised on the sheet, you know, try to bounce around a little bit to make everybody feel at home since we're doing this on Zoom and we're not doing this in person like usual. Just some news and then some feel-good shots. This is unfortunately not a feel-good shot. This is the Roadside America in Pennsylvania, which has either closed or will close very soon. This has been a model railroad that has been there since I was a kid. It's a shame to see this go, but obviously with COVID, visiting here has not been working and they haven't been making any money. So this is going to go real soon. Back to the history files, Wildwood Crest. This is a trolley in the late 40s, original Kodachrome slide. The other New Jersey trolley line at the time on the south side, Atlantic City, one of the Brill cars. Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Cleveland, Ohio, Shaker. I said I was going to bounce around a little bit, wanted to try to get something close to any members who could be watching. This is the Isle of Wight train in the UK. These will actually stop running next week. They have newer tube stock from London that has been modified to replace these. These are from the 30s and they're running until next week. I took this in 2013. Talk about distant in the country. This is the mock-up for the Hawaii light rail line that is supposed to go in. I've been reading a lot of bad things about this in the press the last month. It was supposed to have opened already, and there's a lot of issues going on. And they're even talking about, you know, whether it gets built or not. Let's hope that doesn't happen. This is the mock-up in Honolulu in 2015. Just a construction project shot here, and you can see some of the infrastructure going up. This is 5 years ago, so there's a lot more up today. This is the opening of the Ottawa the Confederation line last year. This is one of the first trains in service. I had hoped to go back this year, but obviously that was not possible. That's the Tremblay Station, which is the transfer point to Via. One of the things I like to do, for those who don't know me, I like to go to the openings. This is the opening of the Blue Line extension in Charlotte 3 years ago. This is Cincinnati. Police escorts for the first cars. That's a better view of what the car looks like. It was there for the opening in Detroit. Just some other views, again, just trying to tie it in around the country so everybody has something a little close to them. Denver, somewhat identical to the Philly cars. Very nice commuter service out in Denver. I will go back. Light rail does amazing things in Colorado. Chicago, one of my favorite places to visit. This was a random hotel, Holiday Inn hotel also, that had a beautiful view of the river. CTA at IRM, one of my favorite museums to go to. There's always something that I haven't seen before. And from the history file, St. Louis in the 50s. I saw Mr. Siscom before, if he's still on. The loop trolley, it seemed to be abandoned, and I saw it was running again a couple months ago. I have to do a little more research on this, but this is a nice ride. Also in the area, the Illinois terminal cars, very nice looking. San Francisco for our California friends. LA, that's a famous portal. This is actually Disneyland out there. They have these 2 cars built by Gomaco. You can ride these with your admission ticket. San Diego. I'd like to ride the Disney cars, but I'd rather ride this. And I threw this in for electric rail purposes. That's a former interurban car running for the Black Hills Central Railroad in South Dakota. You can see it kind of looks like one. I believe these came from that nice Midwest preservation in Oregon. That's what the train that it is on looks like. Puerto Rico, a visit many years ago with their nice metro. I knew our friends from Germany were on, so I had to get out my slides from my visit. I believe this was 97 in Berlin. And the S-Bahn, this is Warschauer Straße, I believe. Torino, back to New Jersey. View you can't take anymore with all the construction and the other unfortunate thing. Salt Lake City with the ex-San Jose cars. How about some Dallas cars being used for the Olympics in Salt Lake City? And I figured just to close out the show, I was going to put in a few people pictures from ERA trips of the past. Mike Licking can always say he went to hell and came back. This is Hell, Norway on the 2008 ERA convention. Here's a nice shot in Stockholm. Stockholm as well. Is that's Harry Pinsker in Philadelphia. Bill Ehrland doing one of the things he does best, which I do too. Here's the ERA for a nice tour of the Long Island Railroad shops in Hillside. Thanks to Randy, if he's still on.
He is, thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Here we are, Croton Harmon. This was the last ERA trip pre-pandemic. Another great tour at Croton Harmon. See yourself if you're in the picture.
Yep.
And outside again at Hillside with, at the time, a brand new M9. Couple of joint ERA MNYBA trips. This is the basically 200-foot trolley in Manheim, Pennsylvania, with people from both groups. That's what it looks like without the people. A nice former Conestoga Traction Company car from Lancaster. And that's the same bus you saw in Philadelphia. Nick DeBarry purchasing something in Springfield. I don't know if he's on. And this is something we're all going to miss this year, going to the train show in Springfield. I do enjoy that. And I'm sure a lot of you do. ERA co-sponsors a trip here with the MNYB. I wish everybody a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everything, whatever you celebrate, please enjoy. Happy New Year. And if you wish, join the show in January, or I'll probably be doing the same thing again in December. Thank you for joining. Have a great day, and hope you enjoyed.
You can all unmute yourself to give Andrew applause. And Andrew, you get the award. You beat out Russ Jackson by 1. You had 149.
Thank you, Andrew.
Participants.
Wonderful show.
Very nice, Andrew. Thank you.
Very good.
Why don't you unshare so everyone can see each other? You may all unmute and turn on your video. I mean, unshare your screen. That's what I meant to say.
I will do that. There we go.
All right.
There we go.
So if you want to stay on for a couple of minutes and take some questions, that would be good.
Andrew, how's your dad?
She's doing okay. Thank you.
Good.
Hey, I've got a question.
They're still
Will
up.
any of this be
They're doing some
available?
questions. I wanted to ask, well, I won't. I'm gonna leave, I'll leave it.
A lot of work.
Huh?
If you want to stay in it, that's fine.
A lot of
I'm
work.
going to ask that just one person at a time talk. There are a lot of you on there, all right?
It's just gonna be hard to do, I think.
No, it can be done. All right, go ahead.
Great show, Andrew. Very good show. Great.
Thanks,
Excellent.
Ron. Appreciate it.
A lot of work.
It's easier with slides.
You did a wonderful job, Andrew. It was really great. You covered a lot of ground. And I did put in the chat the website for the RRE show, and that is on Zoom. You may need to register just like for this. The passcode thing was my problem. We will not have that for the next show, so not to worry. But I think you all got on.
Yes.
Electric Railroaders Association Zoom show, so I couldn't pick up the phone. I'm done with that now. So if you want to call me back, do so. Okay, have a good night.
Andrew, thank you so much for some of those New York shots. They were scenes that my dad, may he rest in peace, used to take my brothers and I to see when we were really young, and I'm in my 80s now. It really brought back good times.
Glad you liked it.
And Andrew, this is
hundreds of thousands of slides. Hey, Carl, how are you?
I want to thank you, especially for the Brooklyn trolley bus shots. My grandpa used to take me on the B-47 when we lived on Madison Street between Troop and Tompkins. And I was just a little booger, but he would take me down to about Ebbets Field and then on to Coney Island through the Avenue X gate. And I know we've talked about that before, so I really appreciate that. Thank you a lot.
I appreciate it, Carl. Thank you for your wonderful hosting while we were in El Paso. My wife is on the couch here saying we have to go back as soon as this is over, and we look
many
forward to visiting.
Karen.
You know, what's so encouraging is that when I first joined the ERA, it was mostly last runs on systems that were being abandoned, and so many new systems that have come back, and it really is it looks like the future is very bright. It's really a nice upbeat.
Thanks, Paul.
Sergeant, take a report.
Thank you, everybody. Merry Christmas to all of you. Happy holidays. Please,
Happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
Please be safe. Be careful where you go and what you do, and God bless.
Thank you.
Hey, Ron.
Same to you.
Hey, will any of this be available for us to cruise through your slides?
So they do record it. Bob and I will talk, and if possible, we will put it on in a couple of weeks.
Right.
Exactly.
Great show. Great show.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, we had a lot of rare pictures, Andrew. I had no idea you had such a collection. It's really outstanding.
That's 0.5% of the collection.
Yeah, but it's really precious.
Thank you.
It was really great, Andrew.
Thank you, Russ.
Thanks for the show, Andrew. It was good seeing you again. Good seeing some of those memories, and definitely looking forward to seeing the show in January, and hopefully be able to link up sometime in the near future.
Call me.
Yeah, that'll be Jack May will be presenting in January, and he also has a wonderful survey.
He means the RRE show, but yeah, Jack May.
Oh, the RRE show. Well, and they're fortunately on 2 different dates, so you can hit both shows.
Signs and symptoms of dry eye disease. 1 drop in each eye, twice a day. Unusual taste sensation.
Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Oh, there's the one who was in hell. Hello, Mike.
To hell. Right. So Russ, Andrew edged you out by 1 person for a short period. You 2 are the top 2 show getters.
Well, he did a hell of a lot of work.
Wow.
You know, it's very easy to put the slides in a box to put in a projector. To do the PowerPoint thing, to get it to size right, to do the maps.
Oh.
I did half the show twice, and the files wouldn't open because they were too big. That's why I had 7 files. So I lost 3 days worth of work.
Oh my!
I had to do it again. Yeah, slides are a lot easier to work with. But
Look at the sign.
Is it next Friday?
Agreed.
Hey, Sandy.
retired head planner from San Francisco.
The only thing that takes more time is putting video together.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Andrew, I
Really
like
did
it.
it.
I
You
like
really
the
did a
show very
terrific
much.
job. This was really a good combination of the old and the new, and really it gives us a good flavor of what's developing now, all around the country, and in this case, pretty much around the world in terms of electric transportation.
I try to keep it moving so there's something for everybody. Thank you.
Great job, Andrew. Thank you so much. It was really enjoyable.
And,
Hey, Matt.
and yeah, I like the way you basically put the show together, mixing transit, freight, mainline railroads, old and new. It's a wonderful mix.
Truth be told, most of my pictures this year were freight pictures because it works with pandemic rail fanning. You can go sit at some grade crossing somewhere and you don't run into anybody. But I couldn't show 800 slides of freight here. It's the wrong audience. So that'll be for our audience.
I found I also found rail fanning on the deserted commuter platforms fairly safe to do also.
Yes, I did do that over the summer too.
Yeah, Andrew, I just wanted to say I really appreciated not just the subject selection, but excellent photography as well. Really good. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I really enjoyed it too, Andrew, and especially the coverage of the Long Island Railroad third track project.
Thanks,
Very
Larry.
interesting.
Thank you. No comments, Anthony?
You're lucky I'm awake.
Oh, Anthony. Oh, boy.
Outstanding articulation, Andrew.
Thank you.
Outstanding articulation.
I haven't had much practice being that we're in pandemic mode. This is the most I've spoken in a day in years, or in months, I should say. But it worked out pretty well. Thank you.
Combine that with the structure and your selection of photos and the range of coverage. I've got to give this a AAA plus.
Thank you. Thank you. I always like to do something that has a little something for everyone, and I try to make the pictures so they're not just a shot of the car where you can't see anything, and try to do it interesting so it's interesting to people who aren't necessarily transit people. So I appreciate it.
I'm very impressed by the amount of progress on the third track program. Being shut in because of the pandemic, I haven't realized they've really been working a lot on the main line there.
Very much so. Very much so. Impressive.
I hope I can get to see Nassau Tower before they get it knocked down.
Go soon.
Do they still have the pedestrian grade crossing there at the east of the Mineola station?
It
Are
looked
they
like
handicapped?
last time I was there, you could still cross, but I wouldn't be surprised if they close it off soon.
Wanted to do that for the SIRT at the new station down there at that they built on the SIR.
That's awesome.
Any other comments?
Okay.
Okay, this was a really great evening. The really wonderful selection, Andrew. And as I said, you and Russ are like the top vote getters with almost 150 participants. So I think this is great. And hope that we will see you all with Jack May, and the date on that should be January 15th, okay? So January 15th. So one final call for comments, going once, twice. I wish everyone a Merry Christmas or Happy Hanukkah belatedly, and a Happy New Year, and then
happy and healthy New Year.
Happy and healthy New Year, and
Amen on that.
Much
Happy New
happier
Year.
and much
Better
healthier
than
this year.
Right, exactly. That's right.
All transition into a better year.
That's right.
Hope.
Okay, so
Take
with
care,
that,
guys.
I wish everyone good night. We're going to end the presentation so Andrew can also have a deserved rest. So happy holidays, everybody. Good night.
Good night.